I lost my legs while trying to save Everett. After 3 years of marriage he allowed his friends and family to insult me. When I questioned him about it he impatiently pressed his fingertips to his brow and said, "They're just stating the facts. I didn't beg you to save me back then. No one asked me if I was willing or not." All the affection I had for him in my youth turned to ashes at that moment. That night I mixed sleeping pills into his milk. While he was sound asleep I cut off his legs. I fell asleep holding him as he howled in pain. When I opened my eyes again I went back to 3 years ago before the accident happened. Everett is really something. He's been able to put up with a cripple for 3 years. Brother, you don't get it. Maybe Everett has some special fetish. That cripple in bed. Hee hee. I'd say Aloan is too scheming. She's using her disability to tie Everett down for a lifetime. Laughter came from the private room of the hotel. I stood outside the door clenching my fists, until the laughter stopped and Everett's deep voice came, "That's enough." Someone pretended to be surprised. "Come on, don't tell me you've actually fallen in love with that cripple?" After a long silence I heard him say, "Impossible. I mean I don't have any special fetishes. It's really annoying to face a cripple every day. If it weren't for 3 years ago." "Sister-in-law, what are you doing here?" The door of the private room opened and everyone's eyes turned to me with mockery, sympathy in them but no surprise at all. Everett had a moment of panic and guilt. He strode towards me, his tone full of blame. "Don't you know your own situation? What are you doing here?" I sat in my wheelchair looking him in the eye and silently held up my phone. "You asked me to come. An hour ago Everett had sent me a text message saying that he'd drunk too much and asked me to pick him up." I was pushed into the private room by Everett. He closed his eyes and sighed. "Are you happy now?" The man who had just mocked me raised his hand with a smile. "Sorry, sister-in-law. We were just joking, wanted to see how much you cared about Everett." He said that they had sent the text message using Everett's phone just to prove that I loved him. These people didn't even try to hide the contempt in their tone. I looked at Everett blankly. He seemed to have known about it all along. "I didn't know you'd actually come." He saw what I was thinking and helplessly pressed his fingertips to his brow. "You too. Think about it carefully. Even if I'd drunk too much, there are chauffeur's friends. Any of them could have taken me home. What could you do even if you came?" I followed his gaze to my own legs. What could I do? Probably just rush out in my wheelchair after receiving the text message, and when taking a taxi I'd have to trouble the driver to help me get in. Now that I think about it, I was really stupid. I was so eager to make myself a laughingstock in their eyes. "Since there's nothing wrong, I'll go back first." I lowered my head and wheeled my wheelchair away. "I don't know who stuck out their foot to block my way. Don't rush off, Sister Aloan. It wouldn't be right if you didn't have a drink since you're here." Someone handed me a glass of wine, but I'm allergic to alcohol. I looked at Everett again and he still chose to remain silent. Facing the eyes of everyone in the room who were watching the show, I silently took the glass of wine. "Haha, as expected of Jiang." "Oh shit." He let out a cry of surprise because I splashed the wine in his face. "You crippled bitch. What are you doing?" "Ah." I turned on the electric mode of my wheelchair and mercilessly ran over the foot that was blocking my way. There were voices cursing me from behind, but I ignored them and kindly closed the door of the private room for them. Everett caught up with me and immediately started scolding me. "Aloan, don't go too far. They're all my friends." He reached out to grab me but I blocked him. "They're your friends and I'm your wife. You know how to defend your friends, but you turn a blind eye when your wife is being insulted." Everett pursed his lips. It was his subconscious reaction when he knew he was in the wrong but didn't want to admit it. Suddenly I felt it was so pointless. I wheeled my wheelchair towards the door. Until I reached the entrance he caught up with me again. They were a bit outspoken. But what they said were also the facts. I didn't like what Everett forced out. Rubbing my wet eyes hard, I tried my best to make my voice calm. "Let's get a divorce." Everett froze on the spot and the words of refusal blurted out. "No, I can't divorce you." I looked at him in confusion. "Why?" I heard it with my own ears that he said he didn't like me. Once upon a time I could still deceive myself that although his friends weren't very happy to accept me, he loved me and that was enough. After hearing those words with my own ears today, I realized how ridiculous I was. The wind at night was a bit chilly. Everett took off his coat and put it on my legs. It's my fault. Those words just now were nonsense when I was drunk. Don't believe them. Anyway, we're not getting divorced. Be good. The minty fragrance that belonged to Everett wrapped around me and I couldn't hold back my tears in the end. He pushed my wheelchair and walked on the busy street. I'll take you home. He pushed me slowly along the street at night. He must have been thinking about something. He was so distracted that he didn't even notice a pothole in front of him. I reminded him, and after an apology there was silence again. I opened my mouth slightly. I hope you know that if you think I'm a burden, if you don't love me, we can get divorced. I had liked Everett for 10 years, but that didn't mean I would cling to him. Everett's voice sounded unhappy. I said, we're not getting divorced, Aloan. I closed my eyes and didn't say anything. Memories of the past kept coming back. 3 years ago, when the ceiling of the laboratory fell, I instinctively pushed Everett away. I saved him, but I was hit and lost consciousness. That day I was originally planning to confess my love to him, to write an answer for my 7-year secret crush. When I woke up from the coma, what came into my sight were Everett's red eyes. Aloan, are you out of your mind? Who asked you to meddle? I opened my mouth and found that my voice was terribly hoarse. I wanted to tell him it didn't matter because I liked him, and also to repay the kindness of the Shen family. My parents passed away when I was very young. If it hadn't been for the help of the Shen family over the years, I'm afraid I would have had a very hard life. I wanted to get out of bed and pour myself a glass of water, only to find that my legs had no feeling. The guilt in Everett's eyes grew even stronger. He took my hand. I'll be your legs from now on. Aloan, let's get married. I admit that at that moment I was so overwhelmed by happiness that I lost my head. Okay. Everett, actually I've liked you for 7 years. Everett held my hand tightly and didn't say anything. I subconsciously ignored the hint of reluctance in his eyes. When I woke up in the morning, Everett had already left. There was a glass of milk he had warmed for me on the bedside table. The company has been really busy lately. Don't wait for me for dinner at night. I took a sip of the milk. It was sweet. But I had never liked sweet milk. There was a clattering noise outside the door and then a loud shout, "Good morning, sister-in-law." It was Everett's cousin. I let out a long sigh, thinking what a big trouble she was. Cressida affectionately put her arm around me, but her eyes were full of sarcasm. "Sister-in-law, you're really good at causing trouble for my brother." At yesterday's drinking party there were several important connections that my brother needed to win over. Your little outburst really messed things up for him. What are you going to do about it, sister-in-law? I calmly looked at Cressida. You can ask Everett to divorce me. After the impulsive happiness faded away, I could occasionally feel Everett's helplessness. He always kept a certain distance from me in a rather indifferent way. His friends hadn't always treated me like that from the start. Actually, I understood that they were just speaking out what Everett couldn't say. So I had said more than once that if it was just because of the life-saving favor, it wasn't necessary. We could get divorced. But he always refused. Cressida sneered. Don't you think my brother won't divorce you because he likes you? She forcibly dragged me into the wheelchair. I struggled, but it was useless. What could a cripple do to resist? She chuckled in my ear. Come on, I'll take you to see something interesting. The interesting thing Cressida mentioned was Everett having an intimate date with another girl. Through the glass window of the couple's restaurant, I saw with my own eyes that Everett was tidying up the loose strands of hair on the other girl's forehead. The love in his eyes was almost overflowing. Cressida pouted. See that? That's the person my brother really likes. I didn't understand. Then why doesn't he divorce me? I wasn't the one who was clinging on. Cressida said indignantly, it's all because you took it upon yourself to use the life-saving favor to blackmail my brother. If he divorces you, what would he become? An ungrateful person. Why are you pretending to be magnanimous? Isn't this all part of your scheme? I didn't understand why everyone thought that I saved Everett out of some ulterior motive. I only lost my legs while he lost his freedom? The people inside were too focused and didn't notice me not far from the window. I smiled, wheeled my wheelchair closer and gently knocked on the glass window. Cressida didn't expect me to do this and her face froze. What are you doing? How funny. It was she who brought me here, but she only allowed me to be sad secretly after watching. She couldn't stop me in time. The two people inside noticed us. They were shocked and panicked. Everett quickly appeared in front of me. Aloan listened to me. He didn't know what to say and glared at Cressida reproachfully. Who asked you to bring her here? Cressida pouted unhappily. I'm just feeling sorry for the real sister-in-law. You two have been in love for years. I froze on the spot. In love for years? But before I wanted to confess my love, I had asked Everett indirectly if he had a girlfriend. His answer was no. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the courage. Aloan, go home first. Everett scolded Cressida and then called a taxi for me. Wait a minute. I raised my hand to stop him. I want to talk to the lady inside. Aloan. Everett frowned. He was unhappy. I gently took his hand. You'd better listen to me. Otherwise, I don't mind shouting, catch the mistress on the street. I'm a disabled person. I've seen too many strange looks over the years and I'm immune to them. It'll be you who'll be embarrassed. Everett's frown deepened, but he must have cared a lot about the person inside. In the next second, he pushed me into the restaurant. Everett, is this your wife, the one who saved you? The girl seemed to know about me. She propped her head on one hand and smiled at me. Hello, I'm Belladonna. Everett's first love. She was just like those people. She seemed to bear no ill will towards me, but in fact she was full of malice. Everett, why don't you take your cousin to sit over there? I'd like to have a chat with Miss Jiang. With just a few words she took the initiative. Everett took Cressida and sat not far away looking at me worriedly. Miss Jiang. Belladonna stirred the coffee in front of her leisurely. You know, if it wasn't for you, I would be the one marrying Everett. I don't know, I told her. I've never seen you in his circle. I didn't even know he had a first love. Belladonna raised her head with a somewhat resentful look in her eyes. We had a secret relationship. Because of my family, Everett said his family wouldn't agree. Only Cressida silently supported us. We had been in a secret relationship for 2 whole years. Before the accident happened, we were both ready to tell our families about it. Unfortunately, you cut in. No wonder Cressida hated me so much when she learned that I was going to marry Everett. But was it my fault? I had confirmed with him more than once whether he had a girlfriend or not. He chose to hide it himself, and then chose to marry me after the earthquake. Belladonna saw what I was thinking and gave a light chuckle. Are you curious about why he insisted on marrying you? I looked up at her. My intuition told me that the answer wouldn't be good. Because he found your secret love diary, Aloan. When Belladonna said this, there was hatred in her tone. Neither earlier nor later, but he found it just after you lost your legs and were in a coma. Right in front of the elders of the Shen family. Are you still saying it wasn't on purpose, Miss Jiang? My mind went blank. So he had read my diary. Everett had originally wanted to pretend that he hadn't seen it, but he didn't expect that Aunt Shen had seen it first. The elders meant well. I had grown up under their watch, and the Jiang and Shen families had been old friends for many years. So that day, Aunt Shen asked him, do you like Aloan? She had thought that if the two of them had feelings for each other, it wouldn't be a bad thing for them to be together. Unexpectedly, Everett thought it was pressure from the elders. I'll marry her. He gave up Belladonna under the pressure he thought he was under and married me. So that's how it was. I thought of how excited I was and opened my heart after learning that Everett was going to marry me. What a joke. He can divorce me now, but he didn't. That's what I didn't understand. Belladonna showed a sarcastic smile. Because you're useful. Everett is at a critical stage of getting promoted. If others know that he abandoned his savior, what would they think? Miss Jiang, you've already made things difficult for him once. Please don't make it difficult for him a second time, okay? So scheming. Who knows if the death of your parents was retribution? Ah, I couldn't help it and splashed the coffee in front of her onto her face. She could say anything, but she shouldn't have mentioned my deceased parents. Aloan, what are you doing? Everett quickly shielded Belladonna in front of him. I pointed at her. She cursed my parents. Belladonna was in a very sorry state with tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't. I was just explaining our past to her. It was her. Everett looked at me angrily. Apologize. I stared at them for a while and then smiled. Okay. Before I apologize, can I say something to you? Everett didn't say anything, which meant he agreed. Come a bit closer. I'll only tell you this. He walked over and bent down slightly. Exclamation point. I slapped him as hard as I could. Let's get divorced. Everett's face completely darkened. Aloan, I've said that we can't get divorced. Yes, we can't get divorced. He cared so much about his face and reputation. But this time I didn't want to sacrifice myself to satisfy him anymore. Then wait for the lawsuit. I turned my wheelchair around to leave but was pulled away from the wheelchair by a strong force. I was thrown to the ground. Everett's eyes were red. Divorce? Look at you, a cripple. Who would want you without me? I looked at him in disbelief, unable to believe that these words came from him. Was I born crippled? Everett got angry. Yes, you saved me. You're my great benefactor. I beg you, did I ask you to save me? Did anyone ask me if I was willing? I'd rather be the crippled one myself. Do you know how much pressure this guilt has brought me? Do you know how much I've lost because of this kindness? He bitterly complained about the pressure after owing me half his life. I'd rather you hadn't saved me. I stared at him blankly. A faint smell of urine came out. Under such great humiliation I lost control of my bladder. Seeing this, Everett quickly picked me up and put me back in the wheelchair. Look at yourself. What can you do without me now? He looked at me with disgust and put his coat on me. I'll take you back. You should calm down by yourself. Everett called a car for me. The driver was a plump middle-aged woman. He had given her some extra tips in advance and asked her to push me back after arriving at the destination. Perhaps seeing that I was in a bad mood before leaving, she made a cheering gesture to me. Girl, there's still hope in life. She was probably afraid that I would commit suicide. No, I wouldn't. Because just half an hour ago I received a text message from a stranger. It was a screenshot of a chat. Brother Shin, your wife is determined to divorce you. It seems that you can't play the role of the affectionate husband for President Gu. But it doesn't matter. If one way doesn't work, we can try another way. Do you still remember President Xi that I mentioned to you before? He loves playing with disabled people the most. Isn't Aloan just? Anyway, she's going to divorce you. You can just take this opportunity to seize her weakness and accuse her of cheating. In this way you don't have to bear the bad reputation of abandoning your savior. 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance, brother. That person said a lot, and the okay that Everett replied completely made me despair. How cruel. He blamed me for saving him and putting pressure on him, and yet he still wanted to squeeze the last bit of value out of me to pave the way for himself. I didn't know who sent me this text message, but whoever it was, I should thank him. Aloan, I'm back. Everett came back drunk. He staggered over to me and squatted down. I'm sorry. I was an asshole during the day. Let's not get divorced, okay? I looked at him calmly and showed a gentle smile. Okay. Really? I nodded and handed him a cup of hot milk. I was also at fault for what happened during the day. Drink this cup of milk to sober up. I've booked a plane ticket to the Maldives for tomorrow. Let's go on a trip together, okay? Everett was flustered at first and then looked confused. Tomorrow? Let's talk about it tomorrow. Okay. I smiled and handed him the milk, watching him drink it. The effect of the medicine came quickly. As I expected, Everett fell to the ground and passed out. It's really troublesome when one can't walk. It took me a full 2 hours to cut off Everett's legs. He woke up in the middle of it. His crazy screams forced me to stop and stuff a towel into his mouth. He shook his head frantically. I quickly comforted him. It's okay. I won't kill you. I just want your 2 legs. Anyway, you don't cherish them. Why not give them back to me? He made whimpering sounds, probably begging for mercy. I stuck the chat record on his face and he finally calmed down, leaving only pain and despair. When it was almost dawn, I finally cut off those 2 legs. The knife was blunt. Everett passed out and woke up several times. After I finished, I took the towel out of his mouth. He was already on the verge of death. Jiang. Forget it. I stuffed it back into his mouth. I was too lazy to listen. I realized too late. My life had been ruined the moment I lost my legs in this life. Since he wanted to completely ruin me, I had to ruin him first. I lit the coal in the room and fell asleep with him sobbing in my arms. It's good. When I came to my senses, I took away a beast in human clothing from this world. I didn't expect that I could open my eyes again. The numbness in my legs made me widen my eyes in surprise. I was reborn before the accident happened. I jumped up suddenly, which startled the others in the laboratory. Junior sister, are you okay? I stared at my legs and replied perfunctorily. I had gone back to my second year of graduate school. At first, in order to be closer to Everett, I chose the same major as his and even managed to get into the same group with him. But that accident made me give up my studies. Feeling the strength in my feet, I was so excited that my whole body trembled. It was 13:27 on May 8 now. There were still 10 minutes before the ceiling would loosen and fall off. Once, in order to save Everett, I pushed him aside with all my might, but I was crushed under the ceiling myself. Aloan, what's wrong with you? A pair of big hands touched my forehead. It was Everett. Do you have a fever? Do you need me to ask for leave for you? I subconsciously avoided his hand. There was a hint of hurt in his eyes. You? Our strange behavior attracted the attention of others. Oh, are you two quarreling? On normal days, I was always chasing after Everett, while Everett neither accepted nor refused, so that everyone jokingly called us a couple. No, he has a girlfriend. I have nothing to do with him. I quickly denied it. I felt it was unlucky to have anything to do with Everett in this life. Seeing that I refused so quickly and even mentioned his secret girlfriend, Everett was slightly stunned. He lowered his voice. Aloan, is there some misunderstanding between us? I looked at him and suddenly understood the strange things between us. Everett had a girlfriend at this moment, but he was still ambiguous with me. Even now that I had pointed it out, he didn't want to admit it. Did he want to have an exciting relationship and yet didn't want to give up my kindness to him? So the person I liked was bad from the very beginning. Watch out! A startled cry interrupted my thoughts. The ceiling started to fall off just like in my previous life. Everett happened to be right in the center of the ceiling, and I was just on the edge of the falling ceiling. In my previous life, I pushed Everett away regardless of myself. In this life, I quickly ran away from the dangerous place. Aloan? Everett called out in disbelief. The next second, the ceiling crashed down. Everett passed out after crying out in surprise. Out of morality, I still dialed 120 for Everett. The doctor said that Everett's legs were disabled and that he would have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I tried hard to hold back my laughter. Aloan, why didn't you save me? Everett woke up, his voice hoarse and on the verge of crying, as if I were an ungrateful person. You could have pushed me away. I tilted my head. Everett, stop pretending. I know you've also come back. Before getting married, Everett had never called me Aloan, and just now he asked why I didn't save him. Exposed, Everett blushed. He had intended to take the moral high ground to gain the upper hand and make me feel guilty. I sat beside him and gently patted his legs. Everett, your legs are disabled. Do you remember what you said to me in the previous life? Was it me who begged you to save me? Did anyone ask me if I was willing? I would rather it was me who became disabled. I smiled at him. Didn't you not want to? Now congratulations on getting what you wished for. You don't have to feel guilty because of me anymore. You've just lost your legs, but you can be open and above board and don't have to force yourself to bear unnecessary responsibilities. Everett was stunned there, his face as colorful as a paint palette that had been knocked over. Aloan, I never realized before that you were a lunatic. Can't you tell the difference between angry words and the truth? His expression now overlapped with how he had brazenly said that he didn't need me to save him in the previous life. If I saved him, he blamed me. If I didn't save him, he still blamed me. I was so angry that I reached out and slapped him. Knowing that I'm a lunatic, you still dare to contradict me? Do you want to have your legs cut off again? Hearing my words, Everett suddenly shuddered. Too many things had happened one after another, and he almost forgot how he had died a tragic death in the previous life. I must have lost my mind. I've always disliked women like you anyway. It's good that we don't have to be forced together in this life. He was trying hard to save face for himself. 10 minutes later, Aunt Shin rushed over in a hurry. Everett. Uncle Shin was away on business and couldn't come back, so it was pitiful that she as a mother had to bear this bad news alone. Auntie, don't be too sad. At least he's still alive. As long as he's alive, that's good. I comforted Aunt Shin symbolically. In the previous life she hadn't been too bad to me, but she hadn't been particularly nice either. Before I married Everett she had truly regarded me as her daughter. After getting married she had truly felt sorry for me too, but that pity couldn't withstand the passage of time and the size of her own son. So when Everett's cousin bullied me she chose to turn a blind eye. Aloan, mind your manners. Everett was a bit anxious. He didn't want Aunt Shin to worry, but now he couldn't even turn himself over by himself. Aloan, his father, and I are busy. Thank you for taking care of Everett, this child. Aunt Shin tearfully held my hand. I know you have feelings for Everett. Under the current situation. As she spoke she burst into tears again. I understood what she meant. She was worried that no one would want Everett, just like she had been worried about me back then. I spoke without hesitation. Auntie, I only regard Everett as my elder brother. Besides, Everett already has a girlfriend. Aunt Shin looked at Everett in disbelief. Is what Aloan said true? Everett tightly pursed his lips. He hadn't wanted to reveal the truth so soon, but now I had forced his hand. I thoughtfully added, I've already informed her to come. I don't want to be the third party who breaks up other people's relationship. I hope you can understand. As soon as I finished speaking, Belladonna, dressed in white, had already appeared at the door. Her reaction was similar to Aunt Shin's, shocked and crying. Aunt Shin had met Belladonna before and she didn't quite like this girl because there were 2 older sisters and a younger brother in her family. Such a family background wasn't good enough for her son, but under the current circumstances, Aunt Shin couldn't say much and could only make an excuse to buy food and leave. Everett. The little white flower with red eyes from crying looked especially pitiful, but Everett avoided her gaze. Aloan, you shouldn't have called her here. How can I in this state? He couldn't continue. There was a spread of light yellow liquid on the bedsheet. Belladonna subconsciously took 2 steps back with a trace of disgust in her eyes. Everett noticed this scene and his self-esteem was hit. Aloan. He looked at me with pleading eyes. I remained unmoved. What do you want? You don't expect me to do this kind of thing, do you? Your girlfriend is here. Is it appropriate? After scolding Everett I turned to Belladonna and said, Belladonna, I've heard a little about your love story. Since you love each other so much you must be planning to be together for a lifetime. In that case you should learn to take care of a disabled person now. Under my urging and moral coercion Belladonna struggled to help Everett up. The door of the toilet was slammed shut. I didn't miss Belladonna's resentful expression. I smiled. When something unexpected happened to me in the past they could immerse themselves in their noble love that they couldn't have. If the situation were reversed and under the pressure of life, would they still be so firm? After briefly explaining a few things to Aunt Shin I left. Everett had his mother and girlfriend, so naturally he didn't need me, an idle person, to be in the way there. I lived my life as usual and went to classes as usual. I could walk freely and run freely. The long-lost sense of freedom fascinated me. I heard that Everett was still unwilling to give up and did rehabilitation training every day. Unfortunately there was no improvement at all. Aunt Shin contacted me from time to time and her words were full of dissatisfaction with Belladonna. It was nothing more than that she didn't know how to take care of Everett and wasn't as careful as I was. Everett also wanted to find me, but unfortunately I had blocked all his contact information. It wasn't until 3 months later that I ran into Everett and the others when having dinner with my fellow apprentices in the same group. Belladonna pushed Everett towards me and neither of them looked good. Belladonna was busy scolding Everett and didn't notice my presence. You a cripple, what are you doing here? Aren't you ashamed? The tone of disgust was in sharp contrast to her previous gentle appearance. It was no wonder that Belladonna lost her temper. I had quietly investigated and found out that Everett's so-called romantic love was just Belladonna's long-planned scheme. Belladonna's original family wasn't good and she hoped to find a man from a wealthy family with not so high intelligence to help her change her fate. Everett had shown up at the right time. Unfortunately, I had cut in and got together with him in the previous life. As for this life, the disdained Everett blushed. If I didn't come, how would I know what you and your friends were saying about me? Belladonna sneered. Say that you're a cripple, a useless man? Are they wrong? Look at yourself. I have to help you even when you go to the toilet. What else can you do? If it weren't for getting away from that family, who would be willing to be with a cripple like you? Everett trembled all over. You, what are you saying? Belladonna ignored his murderous gaze. If I had known that taking care of a cripple was so troublesome, I should have changed my target back then. Everett roared, divorce. Before the wedding is held. So they had already got the marriage certificate. It seemed that Aunt Shan also knew her son's situation and didn't allow him to be too picky anymore. Hearing this, Belladonna punched him twice without hesitation. Divorce? Do you think I don't want to? I've been taking care of you for 3 months and I'm almost sick of it. If it weren't for your damn mother, do you think I would be willing to marry you? The little white flower showed such a fierce look after taking off her mask. But such a person was a perfect match for Everett. I couldn't help laughing, and finally the two of them noticed me. Seeing me coming, Belladonna hurriedly got rid of Everett, this hot potato. You've come at the right time. Take your brother away. When Everett and Belladonna were secretly in love before, he had always told Belladonna that I was his sister. Belladonna glanced at Everett coldly. I'm going back to the party. Don't cause me any more trouble. Belladonna left without looking back, leaving Everett and me looking at each other in dismay. What he was experiencing now was exactly the same as what I had gone through back then. Everett, do you remember what your friends said about me back then? Everett turned his head away, his body trembling slightly imperceptibly. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I interrupted him. You knew everything. It's just that when it didn't happen to you, you didn't care. All right, don't be unhappy. To be honest, Belladonna has been quite nice to you. She just scolded you a couple of times. She didn't give you to an old man with special preferences, right? I meant to comfort him, but unexpectedly his face turned paler and paler. No. Aloan, listen to me explain. I didn't really mean to hurt you. I had arranged everything. I had lit incense in the arranged room in advance. He would pass out before laying a hand on you. The next day we just needed to pretend. He explained excitedly until he saw my icy and piercing eyes. Actually, I had already fallen a little in love with you at that time. Slap. I slapped him with all my strength. Feeling that one slap wasn't enough, I slapped him several more times. Aloan. Everett was shocked and angry, but now he couldn't fight back at all. I held back my anger. How dare you mention love? You giving me to another man as love? Letting your friends insult me as love? Having 2-timing relationships as love? You don't love me. It's just that after you found yourself disabled and your first love no longer loved you, all you wanted was someone who would wholeheartedly be devoted to you. Does a selfish person like you deserve love? Everett never came to look for me again after that day. My life became more and more carefree. Occasionally someone would mention Everett to me and say how badly he was doing. I heard that Belladonna treated Everett quite well in front of Aunt Shan, but behind her back she either beat or scolded Everett. I don't know what got into Everett. He didn't say a word even though he was bullied like this. I guessed that he really loved Belladonna. Cressida called me several times, treating me like a bosom friend in her words. That Belladonna, I used to think she was kind and gentle, but I didn't expect her heart to be so dark. Aloan, it would be so nice if it was you who married Cousin Everett. I smiled. Don't talk nonsense. Everett and I are siblings. Cressida pursed her lips on the other end of the phone. You're not biological siblings. Auntie just raised you for a few years and your name isn't even on the household register. Aloan, why don't you go and stop the wedding? It's on the 10th day of next month. Hearing her say this, my eyelids twitched. Suddenly I remembered that before I married Everett, Cressida hadn't been so malicious towards me. After I married Everett, she suddenly seemed like a different person and became closer and closer to Belladonna instead. Now that Belladonna was the one who married Everett, could it be that? I pretended to ask casually, Cressida, don't you like? Before I could finish my sentence, she quickly denied it on the phone. How could it be? How could I like Cousin Everett? After a long silence, Cressida stammered, well, I do have a little. But he's my biological cousin. It's definitely impossible for us. So I want to find a good sister-in-law for Cousin Everett. Sister alone, don't you really consider my brother? I smiled perfunctorily and saved the recording on the other hand. I'll go. Cressida let out an excited cheer. 1 month later I showed up at the wedding venue. When I arrived at the wedding venue, Everett was being pushed out by Belladonna to receive the guests. Everett probably felt humiliated and gritted his teeth. Did you have to make me come with you? Belladonna slapped him on the back of his head. Shut up or I'll tear your mouth apart. I didn't expect their relationship had deteriorated to this point. The reason they could still get married was largely due to Aunt Shin's intention to torture Lin Sui on purpose. When Everett was healthy, she would never have allowed someone from a family like Belladonna's to get close to her son. But now that Everett was disabled, families of equal social status naturally wouldn't be willing to marry their daughters to him. Aunt Shin originally intended for me to be her daughter-in-law, but a few months ago Everett was determined to be with Belladonna, so she didn't have the face to ask me to take Everett again. Didn't Belladonna's family love money? Aunt Shin simply gave them 300,000 yuan at once and bought Belladonna. After getting the money, that family happily handed over Belladonna's household registration booklet. At first, for the sake of money, Belladonna was willing to take care of Everett perfunctorily. After being tricked into getting married, she realized that she had been bought out by the Shin family and that Aunt Shin wouldn't give her a penny more. Divorce? Don't even think about it. Wasn't it supposed to be a earth-shattering love? Then they should be tied together forever. Everett saw me. He looked at me from a distance, his eyes falling on my legs, showing a hint of longing. Aunt Shin never showed up. She was blatantly slapping Belladonna in the face. I just didn't understand. Had the Shin family given up on Everett too? Cressida, who was sitting at the relatives' table, saw me and quietly gave me an okay gesture. This was the plan she came up with. In the middle of the wedding, she would play out the bits and pieces of my years with Everett. In her words, Everett had feelings for me, and by then he would surely feel regret and even break off the engagement in public. This way, not only could the wedding be ruined, but Belladonna's face could also be slapped as hard as possible. However, she deliberately didn't mention that this would also put me in an embarrassing situation. Her plan was so obvious that I had to quietly make some adjustments. Oh, isn't this Everett's little follower? A familiar voice. I looked back and saw one of Everett's buddies who had once made things difficult for me beside him. TSK, TSK, TSK. Look at your eyes. You can't forget the disabled guy. Don't you have some special fetish? His words were frivolous, showing no respect for either me or Everett. Zephyr. If you don't want to have this meal, get out of here. Everett appeared beside me at some point and angrily reprimanded his former buddy. Zephyr looked at us contemptuously. You still think you're somebody? Seeing that you're disabled, I'm just taking pity on you. I'm telling you, your father has already taken your 12-year-old brother home. I couldn't help being surprised that the Shin family had a bastard son. It seemed that Everett had been given up by Uncle Shin. As for Aunt Shin, forget it. Zephyr, get out of here. Everett was on the verge of rage, but unfortunately he couldn't get up to beat him. Zephyr, who had been ordered to leave by Everett, sat down casually instead. Get out. Everett, what are you making a fuss about? Belladonna caught up and kicked Everett's disabled leg angrily. Aren't you ashamed enough of me today? Belladonna started scolding and hitting Everett again. Forget it, sister-in-law. Give Mr. Shin some face outside. Zephyr laughed loudly. Besides, his old flame is here. As he said that, he turned his eyes to me. I didn't want to cause more trouble at this moment, but Zephyr was such a despicable person both in my past life and this life. I picked up the red wine on the table and splashed it straight at him. In his shocked eyes I warned him, "It's your business how you insult Everett, but keep your mouth clean when it comes to me. Otherwise I don't mind telling the Shin family about the shady things you've done in secret. For example, that President Lin likes. In my past life Zephyr liked to introduce all kinds of girls to those bosses with abnormal hobbies, that President Lin was the favor he found for Everett. When Zephyr heard me mention President Lin, he immediately became as docile as a quail." Eloan. Everett called me with a choked voice. "I'm sorry. I really didn't know that life after being disabled would be so." The suddenly played big screen interrupted Everett's confession. I saw Cressida excitedly stand up. "Sister Eloan, why don't you go and snatch the bridegroom? On the 10th day of next month." "Cressida, don't you like?" "How could I? How could I like my cousin?" "Okay, maybe a little. But he's my real cousin. There's no way we could be together. So I want to find a good sister-in-law for my cousin." There was no picture playing on the screen, but the conversation between Cressida and me was clearly heard by everyone. This already chaotic wedding became even more chaotic. Cressida screamed and demanded to turn off the playback. Belladonna strode forward, grabbed her and started hitting her. She was cursing and swearing and several people couldn't stop her. I was quite amazed. Well, a girl who grew up in a rural family that favored boys over girls couldn't possibly be a delicate little flower. Thinking about how she talked with me in the restaurant before, looking so peaceful and carefree, I just felt it was ironic. I quietly left the scene while it was in chaos, with Everett's calls behind me. I heard about what happened later from others. After Cressida's shady thoughts were exposed, her parents had a big quarrel with her older brother. They thought that it must be something Everett had done beyond the line that made Cressida develop a wrong kind of love. Uncle Shin, who was already disappointed in Everett, completely gave up on him this time. Even Aunt Shin reluctantly gave up on her son. Fortunately, the mother of the bastard son had died long ago. At worst, they could treat him as their own son, and it was still in time to cultivate a good relationship with him. Belladonna was on the verge of going crazy. She had completely lost face and the title of shrew was known to everyone. She wanted a divorce, but the Shin family didn't plan to let her go. The Shin family thought that it was because of this woman that one of their sons was disabled. If she hadn't bewitched Everett, Everett and I should have been a couple. With my feelings for Everett, how could I not have saved Everett in that accident? Then it would have been me who lost my legs, and at worst, Everett could have married me. For such a good thing that could earn a good reputation, the Shin family would naturally be happy to do it. Their plan was really good, but my last bit of sympathy for the Shin family disappeared. Half a year later, Everett committed suicide. Before dying, he also took Belladonna with him. It was said that Belladonna got in touch with Zephyr and quietly introduced Everett to an old man with special fetishes. After that, Everett went completely crazy after waking up. While crying and saying that he knew he was wrong and that he had been bewitched back then, he cursed Belladonna, wishing her a bad death. Finally, in a delirious state, he said that he wanted to change the time one more time and that he would definitely choose Eloan firmly. He hired someone to sneak into his home and quietly replaced Belladonna's regular health products with sleeping pills. While Belladonna was sleeping soundly, he set fire to the house and burned himself along with it. After Everett died, I received a letter. It was sent by Everett. I guessed it was just some meaningless confessions. I didn't even open the envelope and just threw it directly into the trash can. Start over again? Impossible. Heaven won't give the wicked another chance. Even if there was one, no matter how many times it repeated, I wouldn't be swayed by him again. I have a clear goal in life. I will only strive to become a better version of myself. The end.